So I'm sitting here with Gaute Godager from Funcom, and we're about to talk about Age of Conan. So, first of all, what kind of clichés do you want to avoid in the MMO genre when you started making this game?
What a question to start with, my friend. Let's say, what clichés?
We have a long time.
Yeah. So. Let's see, which clichés we're going to try to avoid when I made this game. I think what we tried to want to do when we started was that we wanted to make a game where player skills mattered more. And so we wanted to, so if it's a cliché to have two spreadsheets fighting, I guess we wanted to to try to more avoid that. Though there is some elements of RPG in our game as well, of course, or lots and lots of elements of RPG. We also wanted to make sure we didn't have any elves with pink trousers running around in the game, so we wanted to do a mature game with a more like realistic setting and graphics.
Still, I mean, I was stricken by your short demo that I saw that the game is very rich in its environments. And,
yeah.
And when people think of Conan, maybe they just think of the big barbarians and the deserts and that sort of settings. But it must really be important to make it so diverse for people to play for hundreds of hours in it.
That's very true, but luckily that is not the contest with the setting at all, because what you saw in the game, you know, the richness, the diversity, that's all coming from the lore. That's all history. I mean, what most people think about when they think about Conan is maybe the movie from the 80s with, you know, Arnold and all that. But actually, Conan is so much more than that. It's 70 years and more than 100 books and countless of comics taking you all over the world, and that's what Howard did. He recreated like his own twisted, dark version of history. If you think of the, you know, like the histories of mankind, all cooked into one big pot with lots of sex and violence and a twisted, darker theme. That's basically what Howard wrote about, and that also makes it so that we can tap into history as a source for everything visual and look at all the architecture, think about what was Romans before they became Romans, what was it like, you know, and that's basically what we can do. And yeah, the license is great for that.
Something else that I was impressed by was the mounts
and
the mounted combat. And can you tell us a little bit about that and why you wanted to include that in the game?
Yeah, mounted combat. I mean, I think that's very vital in a game like this, where it's very realistically focused, to be able to actually, you know, go up on a horse, ride it, and smite your enemies with anger and force. And that's what we're allowing people to do, to actually for the first time, a quasi-realistic mounted combat. You actually use the speed of your mount and the turning, handling of the mount. The mounted combat is almost like a minigame in itself. The different mounts have different handling speed, they accelerate differently, they stop in different ways, and it's actually very fun just riding around with your horse. So yeah, it's a big important part of the game, and it looks absolutely fantastic, if I may humbly say so myself, being a bit biased naturally.
Will everyone be able to get the same kind of all the kind of mounts in the game?
Right now we don't have any class-based mounts, but some of the mounts that you saw in the presentation were actually pre-order mounts that you get through pre-ordering the game in certain ways. Like we have horses, we have mammoths, we have rhinos, and we might get more also, but I'm not telling you about them, and we'll see as time goes on.
So which of those are with the pre-order?
The pre-order, you get the mammoth and the rhino, and with time everyone can get them, or versions of those mounts. And like, for instance, if you have a horse, that's more like if you liken it to GTA, it's more like a race car. While the mammoth is more like the bus, you know, it handles differently, and it gives you different protection. So the different mounts offer different things, and they cost differently, and there are high-end elite versions of these that are only accessible through really having lots of money, of course, which is part of the fun.
So something that is always problematic in MMO is the endgame. And can you talk us through how you handle that in Age of Conan?
Well, actually, it's very interesting. For many people, that's when the game starts. Many people say, like, oh, grinding through the levels to get to the end game, that's boring. That's end game is where it starts. So, I mean, there are very different ways of having a perspective for this. But I will tell you about the end game, if it be a problem or not. I mean, that's another discussion. The end game, first of all, we have, of course, all the typical things that you will see in other MMOs. You can go grouping, soloing. You can go do raiding. You can get raid tiers that you need to get through to get to the final boss. We have lots of different types of PvP, and one which is especially interesting for endgame purposes, I think, is the massive siege PvP, where you build a city and so does other guilds, and you lay siege to each other with massive siege weapons or all these mounts, and you knock down walls, and you have a really good time with many people. And I think that's in many ways where Conan will blossom, because you get all these troops movements, and just imagine 20 mammoths charging down towards you. That's a really epic moment.
So we're running out of time, but I wanted to show this sword.
Yeah.
Maybe you could tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, this is called the Father's. This is called the Father's sword, and it's actually from the original movie. Not this, but this is a copy, and it's made by some people in Spain, and it's handcrafted, and you can actually buy them, I think, and it's really cool, and it weighs like 10 kilo. Yeah, so it's really heavy. So, but you will actually
chopping off heads with.
Yeah, exactly.